I want to ask you about what's going on with the Supreme Court and this the trans questions. I mean, this has become such a big cultural wedge issue, even though it doesn't really affect that many Americans. It's odd to me that it's become such sort of a rallying cry for the right to sort of vanquish the left and the libs. But can you talk to us about what's happening at the Supreme Court with this trans issue?
Well, yes, this is the second transgender type case ever to reach the Supreme Court. Justice Gorsuch wrote an opinion that seemed to be kind of trans friendly. So a lot of people were wondering how he would weigh in at the oral argument yesterday on this trans question. He didn't ask a single question. So people are like, wow, he must be really thinking about it, or just, wanting to hear the argument, hear what other people, just take it all in. But I don't think that they need Gorsuch's vote. I think that it's going to be 5-4, if not more, to uphold the Tennessee law. Now, 25 states have laws like Tennessee. They're the red states. And what they do is they restrict things like puberty blockers, hormone treatments, and of course, surgeries. They restrict those for people under the age of 18 in the state. You cannot get those puberty blockers. You can't get those hormones under the laws of half the states, the red states. I mean, it may not affect that many people, but I mean, they've gone to the trouble in these legislatures in 25 states to pass those laws. The argument is that it violates equal protection. And that's the only question that the US Supreme Court has taken it on, whether it violates equal protection. If it does implicate sex discrimination, then there's a higher standard of review. So normally they look at rules and laws and they say, is there some rational purpose to it? Yeah, it sounds rational to us, trying to collect revenue. All of law is discriminating, but not on impermissible bases. All of law is to charge a tax bracket to this group and charge a different tax bracket to that group, depending on how much they earn or something like that. There's all kinds of rules that people don't like. And well, the legislature voted 52% to enact that law. And that's the way that the Supreme Court is going to see this case, that it does not involve equal protection. It does not involve discrimination on the basis of sex. And the argument by the 5 justices on the Supreme Court and Tennessee and these other states is very simple. You can't get those drugs or get surgery in our state, whether you're going male to female or female to male, and it applies to both boys and it applies to girls. End of argument. Now, there's an argument about parental, sometimes the parents are all in favor of it. There's a whole other issue when the schools are supposedly helping people to get this counseling or to actually get the treatment, and the parents don't know about it. And that's a huge emotional issue. But there's also people who discuss it with their family. Their family agrees that this boy or girl should get those kind of treatments. How about those people? Does it deny their rights in some way? The ones that are very consultative. The Supreme Court said they're not taking that issue. And actually someone raised that and everyone said, no, that issue is not before us. It's only this equal protection issue. And since it applies to both boys and girls, it looks like that they're going to say, no, there's no right to it. Now, they brought up the instance in the Scandinavian countries, and actually in, speaking of the UK, where I comment from Los Angeles.
Yes, Mr. Katz from Los Angeles.
Britain has had an interesting experience, and so are these other countries. They have very thoroughgoing healthcare. So they basically track you your whole life in a way that they don't really hear. And so they have their studies. They have these very good studies, and they've decided that actually it's not that helpful. I guess early studies and American studies have said it's helpful to the kids. It's helpful to their emotional development. And a kid who thinks that they were sort of, they have this, they feel that they were sort of born the wrong sex and they want to move toward the other sex. And then while they're taking the hormone treatments, they think about it, and then they may keep taking them or progress to surgery or something. They're allowed in the European countries that I'm talking about. They've cut back. They've made it less, they made it harder for those kids to get those kind of treatments, but they tend to pick the age of 16. And at the age of 16, you have a lot more ability to make choices and to get drugs like that. Here in the 20 some states, the red states, the age is 18, which is a whole different bag if you can't even start until 18. And also in those, there are a lot of studies like the American Psychiatric Association, the American Medical Association, that have said basically that it's a good thing. And then they're attacking those studies, saying the studies are actually based on weak evidence. They're not based on very good samples, that Europe is based on, more sampling. And, it's such an emotional issue because there's obviously going to be people who regret their decision. Any major decision like that, they're going to be people who regret their decision. And if you put them on Fox and they keep saying, oh my God, I want to have a baby, and now because of what's been done to me or what I've done to myself, I can't have a baby, or somebody who says, oh, this is so terrible, I want to go back, and now I just can't. It's just and so it's an incredibly emotional issue. But in the U.S. Supreme Court, there's this one issue, and it's just obvious from the questioning. I mean, when Kavanaugh says something like, why are we going to constitutionalize this issue? I mean, that means it's not really a constitutional issue, and you guys are trying to constitutionalize it, when he says the Europeans have pumped the brakes on this whole thing. And it's sort of amazing. If you remember some of these old Scalia decisions, they said you should never consider the law in Europe. God knows what they do over there in Europe. This whole idea, American exceptionalism, who cares what they do in other countries? We're going to do it our way. Suddenly the Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court are so concerned with what the European experience has been. And as I say, if they've changed their mind there on some of these, if they pump the brakes, they pump their brakes on kids up until the age of 16, whereas kids 16 and above in those European countries can make a lot more decisions. Let me just say this, the bottom line, people with money are going to go to other states. It's going to be like the abortion thing. If you have money, you go to the other states and you have the blockers, because all they can do in those states that are red is restrict the person there from taking it there. Obviously, if you have the money to go to another state, if your parents are cooperative and have the money to help you go to another state, you can go to another state like California and you can get the procedure.
It leads to another kind of question, which is not a legal question, but it becomes an operational question in sports, because the many sports competitions are coming to the conclusion that they will exclude those who have gone through puberty as a male from competing in female sports, for example. And so you end up, this is where the shoe pinches in so many different places, but that's yet another one. Before I lose you, but that's for another day. That's not what they're considering right now at the Supreme Court. So we've discussed what is being, it sounds like, both discussed and decided upon, pre-decided upon in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but that's why we have separation of powers at the state level too. So when the legislature and the governor are fighting about their respective powers, it's decided by the state Supreme Court. What's interesting about the participation in sports, the Solicitor General and Biden's Solicitor General representing the United States was against the 25 red states. So to the extent that, yes, it's exaggerated, it's a political issue, but it is a political issue. And the Democrats need to figure out what exactly, things like their platform, what their position is on it. But the position of the Biden administration was that they're against those laws in the red states. And they filed a brief to that effect. And the people who were challenging the law were the ACLU, representing a couple of parents whose kids needed the treatment, wanted the treatment in a red state. And it was the U.S. government. And the U.S. government argued in that case, sports are different because in sports, there's a third party that's involved. If somebody who's biologically, or someone who was born male, runs into or boxes, let's say, with a female, there's a danger to third parties. But in this situation, with getting the treatments, what's the danger to? There's no third parties. And so the U.S. government in that argument really differentiated the sports cases from this kind of case, which is just whether this individual can get the hormone or not. And, some people are very, very sure of their decision, and they don't have the money to go to another state. And it's a life-altering thing for the kid who wants to, and knows, and the parents know that this kid wants to take those blockers and isn't allowed to in the state, and it could change someone's whole life. But it's a very controversial issue, as we saw in the election.
And I think it's hard to come up with an answer, a practical answer, and then, of course, the legal answer, which tries to integrate whatever practical answer there might be. It's a really, really tough issue. Absolutely true. David, thank you for your contributions always to our conversations and for some clarity around many of these issues that really are desperate for clarity. I mean, the new administration, I feel as though, especially having, as you said, expressed openly the desire to go after adversaries legally, politically. I feel as though you're going to be a very busy guy in terms of trying to keep track of everything that's going on. So really appreciate your time. Have we invited David Katz, Kim, to the non-denominational holiday party on the 21st?
No, but I think we should do it. Let's
Hi,
do it.
Kim.
Hi. We're having a gathering on December 21st at 5 p.m. Pacific, and it is the Mark Thompson Show Holiday Meetup, and you are welcome to join us. We'd love to have you.
Well, that would be great.
Check your schedule. Check your. You don't have to commit now. We just ambushed it on you here on the air, but take a look at your schedule. We'll discuss it next week. It doesn't happen for a couple of weeks. We'd love to have you join in. There'll be other people who are regular contributors, and the audience, of course, will be there. And so we really think it'll be fun.
You know, the yin and the yang. We had the election special. Ooh. And we're going to have this holiday party, which will be just as great as that night was not in terms of what happened, right? So I'm going to really try to be there. And hello, everyone out there.
Thanks a lot, David.
We're going to be okay. Mark, we're going to be okay. I'm an optimist. We're going to be okay, including these next 4 years. Yes. This country's going to hold.
I hope you're right. How about it? The great David Katz. Thanks, David. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.